Well, here we are again. Rob's dark humor. With me is Bailey Dog here. She is very interested in this material. And we're going to have a lecture today instead of story time. Because I used to be a university professor. I'm used to lecturing a little bit with a few notes, and that's what we're going to have here. And the dog is tired of me already. We're starting about 450 BC, and in the history of jokes. One afternoon, his postdoc came in and said, I saw an interesting stoning this afternoon, regular Saturday afternoon stoning, but some people were laughing about it. Do you think that's important, Socrates? And he says, well, I don't know. Maybe. But I got my hands full here with good and evil. And check with Plato. He knows everything about everything. So I guess maybe the postdoc did, but we haven't heard anything about it yet. Well, 300 AD, we're talking about different stuff now. Not exactly philosophy. Did you see that Thaddeus, this guy's at the racetrack or whatever, back then the equivalent? Did you see that? That was a good one. Sliced his head off to the right end of the lion's mouth, and the crowd roared. Man, you don't see a shot like that in every game. And I'm finished for the day anyway. Did you win anything? Nah, I didn't win anything. Now let's go have a beer and get laid. And then we move on to 1200 AD, and we see that jokes have a biblical foundation. Go to, if you have your Bibles with you, go to 2 Kings chapter 2, verse 23, which is I'm going to read directly from this for the most part. So the prophet Elisha was given the assignment. He's a bald man, to go to Bethel. And so he made his way to Bethel. And as he was on his way, and I'm reading directly from the Bible, some small boys came out of the city and jeered at him, saying, get along with you, bald head, get along. And Elisha turned around and looked at them, and he cursed them in the name of the Lord. He said, I curse you in the name of the Lord. And 2 she-bears came out of a wood and mauled 42 of the little shits. And the old village men that were sitting against the wall laughed quietly, and they said, those little shits deserved it. And they enjoyed the scene. And the women behind the windows from above watched with joy as they observed the children suffering. And they planned a Broadway musical based on it, or so it is said. Now, afterwards, the Bethelites, what they call them, gathered in good fellowship and considered what to call this joyous view of suffering and its unexpected incredulity. And after discussion, they decided to call the nature of their existence, which was a joke, they decided to call it a joke. And during the next 1,000 years, laughter was around. It spread as a phenomenon. You know, it wasn't gone, but there was little known about dark humor's nature. And then the French and German philosophers in the 16th century, they saw an opportunity to make a little bit of change, considering humor. And they first decided that the term joke was a little harsh, so they changed it to dark humor. And they even examined the nature of laughter. So ultimately, their examination led to three theories about dark humor. One was that it's an emotional release. If you're angry or you're stressed, instead of striking out at somebody, um, you you just laugh, and it works. The second theory is there is delight in suffering and feeling superior to others. Well, maybe there's nothing we can do about that. That's the way it is. And the third theory of dark humor and humor is its incongruity, or in other words, the failure of your expectations. And we'll demonstrate that in a minute or two. You may have noticed too that a good hockey game has elements of all three of these theories, 1, 2, and 3. And it's exhibited as manifested in, well, I can't believe this shit. Hey, ref, you gotta be joking. And the development of more advanced dark humor was led by poets. And was found that there's a firm basis for dark humor in surrealism. There are now several forms of dark humor in use, and there is even a professional class of comedians who float these jokes before happy, inebriated, that means they're drunk, class of audiences. And these people who do this call themselves stand-up comedians. And I have one little joke that's typical of some modern jokes. A dog walked up to the unemployment office and asked about a job. And the clerk was there, and he considered it seriously for a few minutes and said, well, maybe there's a job in the circus for you. And the dog said, what the hell is a circus going to use a plumber for? Thank you very much. Bye. Okay.